Okay, hi. Louisa Clare here, and I don't know how many times lucky this is for me tonight, but I'm here. I'm just going to hang out for a little bit and wait for you guys to find me. Um, my experience with Google Hangouts today, I love Google Hangouts. I'm really getting into it, but I clearly have a bit to learn. It's been a very interesting day of juggling my technological hiccups, and it sort of reminds me a little bit, if I can draw a long bow here, of working with brands in the first instance, which is just fraught with learning opportunities. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity, and you can pack up your bags and go home and give up, or you can keep on trying to learn new things, trying to understand the landscape and do your best to build something that really, really works for you. So that's what I'm doing with Google Hangouts. I'm really enjoying them, and I think that's what bloggers can do with brands as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about that with you tonight when we can finally get ourselves under control. So thanks for being here. Thanks for your interest in this topic, and thanks for your commitment to learning more about it. I think that's the best thing that you can be doing as a blogger, is giving yourself time to just get educated on every facet of blogging. And the facet that I know about, the thing that I'm passionate about, is helping brands, bloggers, learn how to work with brands. So that's what I'm doing here tonight, and I'm really glad that you're here. Hi, can you hear me if you're here? I've got no idea what's happening. Okay. This seems more interactive than it's been in the past. That's okay. We're okay. We're good. We're on it. I'm just going to go with it. Okay, so I think that if you want to leave comments or let me know, I'm just going to make sure I've got this up in front of me so that I can see, see what we're doing, and you guys can participate in it, which is going to be great. Wow, what a big day. Have you had a big day? I've had a big day. I've had a big day. It is okay. Kate, you're there. You can hear me. Oh, thank goodness. Thank you, Kate, for letting me know that you can hear me. I am really, really pleased to hear that. I'm just going to let the others who are just trying to connect with me do that. So give me a tip. Okay, can you still hear me? Okay. Kate, oh, I'm back. Fabulous. Hi, Kate. So glad that you're here. This is wonderful. Great. Okay, good. Right. Okay, well, look, thank you for joining me. As I was just saying, I really love these Google Hangouts, but gee, it's a learning process. And even in that, there's always something to be learned. We've just got to stick at it and get with it. So I know that some of you have joined me for this webinar before. Thank you for coming back today. That's great that you're here. Hopefully we're going to have some things that will just spark in you again as you listen to this material, and hopefully I can mix it up slightly for you so that you get something a bit different out of it. And for those of you who are new, welcome to the green room. You know, the green room is like the behind the scenes room in, TV and those sorts of productions. It's like the place where the performers and the presenters get to relax. Well, I guess tonight I'm seeing it as a little bit of a behind-the-scenes space. I don't have any smarties, unfortunately, but hopefully what I do have is some information that you might not hear about otherwise that will give you some insights into what actually goes on behind the scenes when brands and PR agencies are looking to work with bloggers. And tonight we're going to talk specifically about 5 key questions that I think bloggers should be asking themselves before they start working with brands. And I think that these questions will give you the opportunity to have really great experiences working with brands and give you the sense of, I guess, being a little bit more in control of what you do and how it works. I think that my experience of this space and talking to bloggers and just my own experience is that sometimes bloggers don't have that sense of control and they don't know how to manage the relationships in a way that they can feel really good about. And so a lot of the training I'm doing at the moment is really about helping you to have that sense of comfort with what you're doing and how you're going about it. So thank you for being here. I really welcome you. Some of you might know who I am. Some of you will be the first time you've encountered me. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Louisa Clare. I started blogging back in 2006. I'd moved to Melbourne from Sydney and a friend said to me, you know, you should start your blog. So I did, and over the years it's been a really great experience and kind of journey for me to be on. Last year I was really honoured to be listed by Mamamia as one of Australia's most clickable women and by KidSpot as one of their VIP bloggers. And this year I'm a judge of the Voices of 2014 Blogging Awards as well, which has been really a great experience and really insightful to discover so many fabulous bloggers, some of whom I hadn't come across before. Through my personal blog, I had some really great experiences working with brands. I was sponsored to go to BlogWorld in New York in 2012, which was an incredible conference, and also an opportunity to take my family there for a 3-week holiday, which was just amazing. And I've done lots of really great things with brands, hotel stays, for meals, great products, and I think the main thing that has I want to share with you is I've always been able to do the things that really resonated well with me and fitted for my blog, and I've not had to get caught up in doing things that I wasn't comfortable with. And so what I want to talk about tonight and encourage you with is giving you some of the tools that you can employ with the brands and PRs that you work with so that you can also have some of that great freedom that I have experienced in my own blogging journey. And of course, as well as being a blogger and being on that side of that blog, being paid to do things, being sponsored and having these great experiences, I run a blogger outreach agency, and so we work with great brands and businesses to help them run their blogger outreach programs. So I've been really fortunate to have the experience on both sides of the relationship, and I want to share with you some of the unique insights that come out of that. But of course, all of these great experiences I've had did not start with, that didn't just happen. My blog, when I started for my friends and family to keep up with me, none of them read it. And so I kind of found myself uncovering the world of blogging as it existed back in 2006, 2007, which was pretty different to the way it looks now, 2014. And so I went from really having no one reading my blog to having some really amazing experiences, and I'm just really fortunate for and grateful, really, for what that journey's looked like for me. So, thank you for being here. I want to encourage you that you're going to learn some great things tonight, and what we're going to talk specifically about are some of these 5 big questions that I think every blogger should ask, and why it's important to do that. We're going to talk about the questions. I think these are the ones that are just have the game-changing potential for bloggers, because they're just a different way of thinking about this whole space. And in doing this, we're going to talk about some of the biggest insights I've gained about working with brands. That trip to BlogWorld I mentioned earlier, that didn't just happen. I didn't get an email in my inbox saying, hey Louisa, would you like to go to BlogWorld in New York and we'll sponsor you to do that. That actually wasn't a fantastic pitch. It wasn't something that was really amazing to start with, but by working out what the brand was trying to achieve and by looking at what I was trying to achieve with my blog, I was able to put a proposal together that really resonated and led to that happening. So that's my encouragement to you, is that when you see people having great experiences, it's not necessarily that those things have just happened to those bloggers. They might actually be something that they've developed in partnership, and that's something that most bloggers can do in some way or another. So before we go any further, I want to just encourage you that you're in the right place tonight to have this conversation with me. I'm hoping it can be interactive. Please feel free to say hello if you're out there. Say hi in the comment box. Let me know you're there. And if you've got questions that come up throughout the Hangout, then feel free to chuck them in the box too, and just use this as an opportunity to ask some of those questions. I know that it's late. I know that there's probably something on telly you want to watch. So thank you for being here. I want to encourage you that this is going to be a really useful time for you, so stick around so that we can make the most out of it. Let's dive into our first question. And the first question that we've got is, when you want to think about working with brands on your blog, the main question to ask yourself is, why do you want to work with brands? What is it that you want to get out of that experience? Because that will drive and shape the way you go about it. So there are lots of reasons. You might directly want to monetize and be quite open about the fact that that's what you're trying to do. You might be wanting to build your profile so that you can launch your own products or a book, or speaking gigs, or whatever it is. You might be trying to profile raise, or you see that working with brands could bring you perhaps new audiences. So that's a good reason to work with brands as well. You might just think everyone else is doing it, so you might as well get on the bandwagon, or you might see it as a great way to experience some things, or have access to products or brands that you otherwise might not experience. So there are lots of reasons, and all of them are valid. What's important is that you understand what motivates you, because that's going to drive and shape you in determining what you say yes to and what you say no to. And I think with my own experience of working out when this sort of space started to emerge, what I was going to do and what I wanted to do and what I needed to do in relation to monetizing and leveraging it to, to take it to the next step was really freeing for me, because it did free me up to do things with brands where I wasn't being paid, to do things for my readers that benefited them but didn't necessarily directly benefit me, because I was able to say things that benefit my readers, things that help me grow my audience, that those things benefit me, because those things help me to do the stuff off my blog that I was really interested in doing. So having some clarity around why you're working with brands will make a huge difference to your whole outcome and your whole approach, really. And that leads us really easily into the second question that you might want to consider, or that I think bloggers should consider, which is what is your brand? So once you've worked out why you want to work with brands, you need to figure out what your brand is. What are you building? What are people loving when they come to your site? What's resonating really well for them? So getting to know your Google Analytics and getting just this intuitive sense of that stuff will help you determine the sweet spot between where the reason that you're working with brands, the reason that you're blogging connects with the reason people are coming to your site. And when you find the spot where those two things meet up, then that's your sweet spot for integrating brands into the conversation. And just, as an example from my own experience, when I was blogging on my personal blog, I had a passion that developed as I had my own children for, encouraging new mums. And so I had a readership who kind of fitted that demographic, but it didn't make sense to be blogging about sort of mum or baby-based products on my blog, because though that was the audience demographic, the sort of stuff they wanted from my site was not like product-based stuff. It wasn't me talking so much about those direct recommendations. It was more to me talking about my story and my journey. And so what made sense was for me to work with those baby brands, but to do it off my blog, to go and judge competitions on their sites, or to blog for them, or to let my audience know I was partnering with the brand, but then to take them with me over to their sites. It just made more sense for my readers. So it's things like that to think about what makes sense for you to do, and then what are the right brands for you, and where's the best home for that content. The third question to ask yourself is whether you're sending the right message out. I'm not talking just about the nuts and bolts of your blog. Obviously, that's part of it. Being able to make sure that you've got a blog that is clear about who you are and what you're doing, what your name is, what your email address is, and where they can find you is really important. But it's more about communicating your value to a brand. So it's talking about maybe case studies of blogs of brands you've worked with, maybe some examples of what you've done in the past. If you're just starting out, then you can create those examples yourself. You can find a brand you love and write about them, then send them an email and say, hey, I wrote this post about you. It's really just about building a portfolio and examples that you can show to other brands so that they understand what the benefit to them is of working with you. And I think that's the crux of the message I want to get across, is it's not about just about who you are and what your story is. You've got to always remember this thing, the so what factor, when you're telling somebody, you know, I could tell you my story and I could just tell you who I am and what I've done, and it'd be like, so what? The so what factor is I want to tell you, you know, I want to go, okay, well, I've done this, this is how I did it, let me tell you how I did it so that you can benefit too. That's the so what factor. And so that's the kind of stuff you want to think about when you're presenting yourself to brands and PR managers through your about page or advertising page, but also through your media kit. What is it that they're going to, when they read that, and they're going to go, okay, so then that's where you got to nail it with the why your brand works for them, and getting to know your analytics and getting to know how your community works is a really big part of that. One of the things I like to say is don't act big, act pro, because if you can have a really professional approach when you're working with brands, that's going to just be really, really make you stand out. And that means things like being polite, being punctual, just presenting professionally every time you engage with the PR or brand manager or agency of any type. It's about helping them do a good job at their job, and recognising that when you're working with a brand or an agency, you're kind of building that client relationship with them, where you know, they're engaging you to do some work for them, and therefore you know, might think about it in the same way as if you were being contracted to, you know, a business to do some work, and what kind of things would you think about from that really professional perspective. Because you know, these people, when they come to you and they want to work with you, they have stakeholders, they have bosses, they have clients, they have people who they are responsible to report back to. And so when you work with them, if you drop the ball and if you don't deliver for them, then you make it hard for them to do their job, you make it hard for them to report back internally, and that in turn doesn't make you look very professional. So just doing the really simple things to help other people do well will stand you in good stead for building those longer term relationships. And of course, I'm not suggesting that you should bend over backwards and do whatever for nothing. I'm just saying that when you do make the decision to work with a brand, and you make that decision because you see that it's going to benefit you in some way, whether it's monetarily or profile raising or rewarding your community, that you've kind of agreed to that relationship, and that delivering on that professionally will be a really important part of building longer term relationships and ultimately building and achieving more of the objectives that you have for working with brands in the first place. Okay, question 4. What is your price? Now, this is the point in the conversation where I often kind of have disappointing thoughts for bloggers, and that's because I don't have a formula for how you should set your rates. And the reason for that is, while I understand that we all have to choose a metric on which we base our rates, doing it based on things like traffic and time are kind of problematic or limited. So, you know, use those rate charts as a guide. You know, definitely they can be really helpful, but I think what you need to really factor in is what the value is that you're going to be offering the brand through the process of working with them. And so the things I want to think about, or I guess if you are going to set your price based on rates or however you're going to do it, is to just factor in some of these more nuanced issues. So you might have a large amount of search traffic that goes to one or two or several blog posts on your site. So if you said you had 10,000 uniques per month or hits per month, and yet 30 or 40% of those are going to search traffic, well, then that's going to make it a different. That's going to, yes, you have those hits, but how relevant are they to a brand's objectives if they're going to a post that was written ages ago? That isn't going to see the post that you're writing for the brand. Equally, if you're working with a local company and you have an international audience base, again, like, what's the relevance for the brand? How are you going to help? How is working with you going to help them deliver their objectives? So you need to factor those things in a little bit, and I think it's a lot about managing expectations with your clients, is helping them to understand that this is what you have to offer, these are the sorts of hits an individual post might get, these are some examples of posts you've written in the past, the sort of comments and engagement they get. Just getting a bit more specific so that then they can be happy when you say, well, this is, this is our traffic, but this is what I think you can expect. Don't be afraid of small numbers, because it's much better to go in with clear and obvious expectations than it is to go in and say, well, I get like massive traffic, and then it doesn't convert in any way for them. They're going to be asking questions, they're going to feel disappointed, and it's going to just have a little bit of ickiness there. So think about those things when you're setting your rates, and think about how, and ultimately, there might be times we say, I just want to set this price because that's what I want to set, and if they don't want to pay me that, then I'm happy to say no, and I'm all for owning that. I just also think that you want to have that longer term review. It's not about getting one sponsored post over the line. It's about building a relationship with a brand or an agency or with a person that you can develop over time, and that can ultimately lead to you achieving more objectives and more outcomes than just that one hit post. So yeah, base it around those things and keep the focus on what you deliver. And also, I just think talking to other bloggers is really helpful. Asking around. Most bloggers I know are pretty happy to talk about rates and to talk in detail. So, use the community and just try to cultivate some of that openness there. Okay, the last question I think that bloggers need to be asking is, am I prepared to say no? I'll be honest and say sometimes I go onto some bloggers' sites and I love the blogs, but I feel a bit sad about some of the things that they've said yes to that maybe don't fit that well with their blogs. And I get it. There's just no judgment from me on that, because I understand that you want to make the most of the opportunities that come from having a blog and come from brands wanting to work with you. But ultimately, if you're really serious about working with brands, you want to create a blog that has that really professional look around it and is clear that when a brand looks at you that you're selective and you're always on message. That's ultimately going to lead you to be able to charge more and to deliver more for a brand, and that's going to be a much better outcome for you than just taking the whatever comes your way whenever it comes your way and just trying to leverage every opportunity. You want to stay relevant, you want to keep focused and leverage the right opportunities for you, and build a blog that your readers just constantly know is going to deliver really, really great value for them. So being able to say no is really, really powerful. So let's just recap our 5 questions. I've gone through them kind of quickly tonight. So I just want to invite you to chuck any questions that you've got into that comment box. I'll have a look at them in a minute. But we've talked about why you want to work with brands as the first question, and getting clear about what it is that you're actually trying to achieve through working with brands, and how doing that will give you the framework for deciding what you work with and who you work with, what you work on and what you don't, and also maybe bring some creativity around how to do that. And then we talked about the question of what's my brand. So you're working out what are the things that you love to write about that resonate really well with your readers, and finding the sweet spot between those two things so that you can find blogs that match. We've done a lot of work with beauty brands through Brand Meets Blog, and I know I've had some bloggers sometimes say, oh, I'd love to be involved with that, but there hasn't been an obvious connection for me that they individually might, be really into the brand, but how relevant is the actual blog for that brand? How relevant is their readership? So if you want to work with a brand that maybe is not an obvious fit, then give some thought around what the relevance factor is, and get creative and be able to present that. That's going to make your argument a lot more compelling. Then making sure, and point 3 was that you're sending out the right messages, that you've got the nuts and bolts of things there, like your name and a contact email address, but also that you're communicating that you have something really valuable to offer, and that you're really clear about what that is through case studies and through other examples, and through that social proof element of blogging. Then you need to set a price. You need to work out, and this will be determined as well by your objectives, because sometimes it'll mean that you'll do something for free. Sometimes it'll mean you'll only do something if you're paid. And a part of setting your price we didn't talk about quite so much is working out who's contacting you. The minute you get an email, or the minute you decide to go and pitch someone, you need to work out where they fit within the marketing kind of framework for a brand. because brands can have their internal people, they can have PR agencies, they can have media buying, digital agencies, they could be working with a blogger agency, or they could have a media buying agency who's working with a blogger agency who's working with a PR agency. There could be lots of people involved in the process, and each of those people have different objectives set for them and for their part in that whole pie, but also they'll have different budget allocations based on what their purpose is. So, the traditional role of PR is to provide free publicity for brands. So they tend not to have a budget, or to have smaller budgets for bloggers. A lot of brand PR agencies are starting to understand that they need to have a budget, but it can often still be on the smaller level. Whereas media buying and digital agencies, well, their remit is to get advertising, and so they can often have larger budgets, and they'll have different objectives, and what you are doing with them as a blogger will fit into a much bigger picture. And then SEO agencies, again, they are trying to get their clients to rank more strongly in Google search, and so they will be looking for people who can help them do that and who have that kind of authority around that space. So they also tend to have smaller budgets, and they're looking to select bloggers on different criteria. That's got more to do around their website and blog authority than around their sort of voice or community or engagement. So understanding all of those things is also going to help you set your price. And the last thing we talked about was the power of saying no, and of just honouring what your blog is about, honouring your readers, and playing the long game, not feeling like you have to say yes to everything, but that you can say no well and respectfully, and maintain your credibility and maintain your relationships with that PR brand community. You don't have to say yes to everyone just to get a look in. Now, I've got a question from Rebecca. What are your thoughts on including rates into a media kit? Is it okay to decide based on the brand and what they're offering? That's a great question. So I think you can do both. I think that it is helpful, like speaking from an agency perspective, I do find it helpful to have an indication of your rates, because if I'm trying to set a budget, I'm trying to work out who I can work with and how it's going to go, it's just helpful to know where people are sort of sitting, positioning themselves. So and I don't think I'm alone in that. So there's something to be done within just making it easy for people to do their job. But at the same time, I hear what you're saying about whether you can decide on the brand. And so I think you've got a couple of options. So you can say rates starting from X based on requirements, and that's a way of sort of indicating flexibility but giving a starting point. That's much easier for me to come back to you and say, okay, hey, so your rates start at this. This is what I'm thinking of doing. This is what I'm thinking will be involved. Could you give me, could you tell me what the charge will be? It gives me a way into that conversation more easily, and rather than me coming back to you and saying, oh, what do you charge? And you coming back and saying it depends, and me coming back to saying, well, what about this? It just cuts all that time out, which is good for everybody. So I think that's quite a good way. I don't think you should say rates are negotiable, because I think that just immediately sets in the person's mind that they can negotiate down, or they can, that they can spend less on you potentially. Not that there's a desire to take advantage of you, but just because people are dealing with budgets and lots of people are trying to make it fit, and they're doing it quickly. And so I think you just want to, this is about just you having a bit more control about how you present that information. So I think saying rates starting from would be a more beneficial way of phrasing that. But the other thing you can do is you could have a couple of media kits. So you could have one that you use if you're working with a small business, or you could have one that you're using if you're working with PRs, or you could have one that you're using when you're just not sure about anything. If that worked for you, that would be another way of setting rates. That's still a bit restrictive, because it doesn't give you that same ability to individually position yourself for every activity, but it might be a more time efficient way of doing it. So I hope that answers the question. Chuck another one up there if you've got it. So these 5 things that we're talking about, I guess, are really great in theory, but how do you actually do it? And I guess that's what I've been trying to work out, and have worked out really for the past, oh good, I'm so glad that makes sense. Been working out for the past uh, 7 years of blogging. And I think, as I mentioned, I've had these great experiences, but they haven't just happened. I haven't just had emails from people saying, could we please give you this fabulous experience? A lot of the best experiences have come about through a long-term relationship with brands, being able to pick up the phone and talk to people and being able to have those conversations about objectives and ROI, and then coming up with things that will be great for me and great for them and great for my readers, and that's what we all want. So I wanted to talk to you just briefly tonight about our new course that we've started called Brandlicious, your step-by-step guide to making brands fall in love with your blog. And I'm really excited about this course because it really is just bringing all of this knowledge that I've built up over the past few years together into one place, and also just putting some tools around it, the sort of things that we actually use every day in our business and I use every day in my blog. There is lots of information out there about how to become a free PR-friendly blog, and I've got a free course on that, and that is really helpful. But too often we finish the conversation at that point: how to become PR-friendly, how to get people on our radar, or how to kind of let people know we're around, and we don't take it to that point of saying, well, how do we actually make sure those brands come back to me? How do I get beyond just the press release emails, but how do I actually wow the brands I work with? How do I actually deliver something that's really great so that I can keep those relationships going and keep working with those brands in ways that just keep being really great for me and my readers and for them. So Brandlicious is really all about teaching that, and it's a real one-in-a-kind program in that regard, because the whole thing is about working with brands. And it's not just theory, it's actually the steps and tools that I have used in my own blog and that we use with our clients every day, and it takes you through what is really a proven process. Of course, you can do it on your own. You don't have to do an e-course to learn how to do it, but I guess this is just a shortcut for you. It takes you right through the stuff that I've learned over the years and gives you all of the tools and resources there so that you can just start using them. And I'm really passionate about this, and I'm really passionate about sharing what I know, because there's only so many opportunities that you'll get through me as an agency, or through any PR agency or brand. Most of the opportunities that you get as a blogger are going to be things that hit your inbox, and so I want to make sure that as many bloggers as possible can have similar experiences to the ones I've had as a blogger. And I just want to empower you so that when you do get those pitches, you can turn them into great opportunities and you don't miss something because you delete something that actually could have been really good, or you don't know how to position yourself to have those great experiences. So if that's something that you're looking for, is it something you're struggling with, then this is a course that I've really created for you. And there are some really great general blogging courses out there, and this isn't a general blogging course. Those courses are great. They tend to have maybe one session on monetization, which includes working with PR and monetizing that way, as well as creating e-products and other things. So that's not what this is about. This is a full 6-week course with 10 modules on how to work with brands and how to get your strategy for yourself right, and then how to implement that so that you can start having some of those great results and outcomes in a way that's natural for you and that's natural for your readers, so that you feel really good about what you're doing and you don't have that icky feeling that you're taking on projects that don't really work for you, but you're doing it because that's the opportunity that's in front of you. So I don't know why you decided to come here tonight, but I'm very glad that you did. I hope that it's been helpful for you, because I think that if you can experience some of the freedom in the decision-making process when you're working with brands, it might help you achieve all sorts of things. Maybe you're trying to pay your mortgage by blogging and you want to, build a replacement income up, or maybe you just want to buy some new shoes, which I'm totally on board with. But I just think that you can have some really amazing experiences working with brands, and I'm, hope that I can do what I can to encourage you with that. So, Brandlicious is a 6-week course, 10 modules. You get a week off in the middle. And we go through all of the things that will help make your blog one that PR and brand managers love and love to work with. The format is that it's a private members area site. Each week you'll get notified, or each time a module is released, you'll get notified by email, and you can go and you log into the site and you'll have some material there. You'll have some video content, you'll have a lot of downloadable worksheets, things to think through, things to work on. It'll take about an hour, at least an hour, about an hour a week, and more time if you want to spend actually implementing that and in the way that you respond to brands and PRs, kind of the stuff you're already doing. But yeah, you need about an hour a week to work through the material. And you'll get 2 modules a week, with a week off in the middle of that time. And the other thing that I've done with this, that I haven't seen other courses really do, but I really wanted to, I think that this stuff is really about community and fostering community. So within the course, we're going to have little masterminds where you'll be put with 2 to 3 other bloggers who can support you through the process of doing the course, who you can talk with on a more personal basis about some of the material. Hopefully who you can build relationships with so that you can share and support and sort of promote, champion each other once the course is over. So I want to really have a strong focus on community through the course, through those masterminds and through our private Facebook group, as well as just in the whole sort of style and ethos of the course. So I'm really excited about that, and I think that format will be really fantastic. And really, I haven't left anything out. It's all of my templates. It's reporting templates that you can use with clients. It's briefing templates you can use. It's email templates. It's all the material. We're going to take you through from strategy through to implementation and talk about some life management stuff as well, so you don't get totally overwhelmed by it all. But you can find out more at bebrandlicious.com. The course is called Brandlicious, your step-by-step guide to making brands fall in love with your blog, and I'd love you to join me. And in fact, as a special extra incentive tonight, I know media kits are something that people are really concerned about, and so what I've worked out is with my designer, who's done all of the design work for the course, is that the first 3 people who sign up tonight will get a professionally designed media kit done with the person who's done all of my design for the course, and we'll work with you to make sure that that's all in place and that you've got all the information that you need in there to really stand out. But I really want to make this course as valuable as possible, and I think a professionally designed media kit is a really great tool for you to have, so I wanted to add that in as a bonus to the first 3 people who sign up. So I'm just going to put the web address here, and then I'm just going to hang out, so for people who are joining me or who are here and you've got questions, if you want to ask any more questions about tonight or about the course, then you can do that. Okay, just popped the web address there. Don't know why I did it there and not here, but anyway, I think I need another glass of wine. If you're still around and you've got any questions, I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes and do that. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope it's been really helpful, and I hope that you can start implementing some of these questions and seeing the benefits in your relationship with brands. And I would love to see you join us over at bebrandlicious.com. Okay, I'm going to hang up. Thanks for the questions you've already asked. Thanks for joining me tonight. And I'll come and check back later on the comments thread if you've added anything. Happy to answer them then. Thanks again. Bye.